Hello, good morning, how you doing? Waking up.
Pesiticides raw, spitting truth, getting banned from the Matrix.
Feeling fresh like a Ziploc new man. OJ.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually.
With a champagne tuna, mimosa Holy Ghost running through ya. Hell yeah, it's a new hallelujah. Popping like the top off a bottle and I ain't stopping yet. Baby, it's a brand new day. Ain't no clouds hanging over me. Something doesn't feel the same. The rest of my life gonna start today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. The rest of my life gonna start today. Crawling up the ocean, this is evolution. Can I grow into another animal, the next level? I'm sprouting wings and I just wanna sing.
I'm going to keep this really simple. I'm not going to go into the science and all that because it's inconclusive. You guys are basically telling us that you want to let a company come here and spray our drinking water. That's essentially what's happening. So what I'm going to say to you is I'll go out right now, get some glyphosate, round up and cut, and you two can drink it in front of us and prove to us that it's safe. Are you willing to do that? I'll take your silences or no. Thank you.
Yeah. Not really, but
Not really?
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Ah, okay, so you
No, but I know
so
that
it's dangerous,
right? No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot. Interview me about golden rice. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, then it's finished. Then the interview is finished.
That's a good way to solve things.
Yeah. You're a complete jerk.
I'm asking you to drink a tiny glass of glyphosate.
Nobody's going to do that.
Good morning, everyone, and sorry about my last Periscope. I just started up new live streaming software, and I didn't realize that I did not have the audio input set. So I got the video stuff working, I guess, but I never got the audio input set up on the new software. So I'll have to reshoot that video. The main point of it is that I do have live streaming back from like my laptop, so I can do all the live streaming stuff that I used to do on YouTube. I'm just going to be doing on Twitch, Periscope, and D-Live. So I'm super sorry about the last video. I just didn't have the software set up properly. And if you've noticed, every time I drive, my radar detector goes off because there's a cop somewhere sitting doing, you know, radar gun traps and stuff every time I drive. It's so frustrating. Anyways, I'm heading to court right now. Not right now, I have a meeting first, but I'm heading to the Sandwich Courthouse. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with me or any class action lawsuit or anything like that. Basically, if you've ever seen the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, they put the planet's destruction up on display for comment for like a few weeks before they blow up the entire planet Earth. So basically, Eversource has a plan to poison all of Cape Cod on display at some bureaucratic's office, and they were accepting letters, and then they have 3 court hearings where you can go and present your comment either in support of them poisoning all of Cape Cod with glyphosate or against that. Obviously, I'm against it. So I will be going there to provide my comment on why I don't think it's appropriate for them to be spraying glyphosate over an aquifer where we all get our drinking water, showering water, all that from, when glyphosate is a known carcinogen according to the World Health Organization. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm heading there. The thing starts at 11 o'clock. So if you want to help support and help stop Eversource from spraying Cape Cod with glyphosate, then either write look up that video I did. It's on BitChute and DTube. It's on my Steemit account as well regarding this, about what's going on and how to help. And write in a letter, if you can, to the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture and Resources, because that's who's in charge of this, and tell them that you do not want them to spray Cape Cod with glyphosate, which poisons all of our drinking water. And if you think this is just a Cape Cod issue, it's not. This is in every town in America, the same issues going on. It's just we're actually fighting against it here. So if we can win here, it can set the precedent for your own town. So please support us, and then we can support you. We all are in this together, okay? You know, I know people are gonna be like, I've seen the comments on stuff like this before, where they're like, why do I care about Cape Cod? Because Cape Cod is just a microcosm of the same thing going on in your neighborhood, okay? That's why you care. And if we don't win these little local battles, we're gonna lose the war, okay? So that's what's up. I'm heading there to present my comment. I will do some filming while I'm there, hopefully some Periscope live streaming type stuff. And I'm still banned from YouTube. I'm completely banned. People were like, oh, just create another Google account and, you know, use that. And I opened up an old Google account I haven't used in years. And within 24 hours, Google blocked that one from YouTube as well. So they've just decided that Titus Frost, that personality, or me, or Dean Fougere, is just not allowed to use YouTube. Why? I don't know why they've singled me out. And in the previous video, I said potentially it's because of the documentary I've been working on, which is specifically aimed at Google and their potential ties to human trafficking. Like, I've been digging into them hardcore for 2 to 3 months now, looking up all types of articles, been working on that documentary. That's what I've been working on, and now I'm singled out and gone. It's just incredible. It's also incredible that John Podesta was calling for censorship, and now, like, I'm off YouTube. The best evidence against Comet Ping Pong is basically off YouTube. It's just incredibly convenient for all the Pizzagate conspirators. All right, that's what I gotta say. Peace, everyone. I'll live stream from the court. Take care. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please share this, and please join the fight against glyphosate use against all of us. Okay? Peace. Take care.
What I want to know is, does that mean they intend to practice what is known in the industry as integrated vegetation management, which is a specific form of management that's done all over the country, where the key thing is to allow the scrubby vegetation to grow, the herbaceous growth, the ferns, the wildflowers, and whatnot. If they're planning on doing broadcast leaf spraying, that's going to impact those plant communities as well, and that's a concern for a number of reasons. Regarding the scouting that they tend to do, I suppose for the purposes of what they're going to spray and what they're not going to spray, again, opposed to the whole spraying idea altogether, what is their effort to assess these areas? What exactly do they plan on doing? What are the standards that they use? How far? Is it written anywhere that they will stay away from standing water? How far will they stay away from sensitive species? So what tied into that, certain flora and fauna regarding endangered species might not be edited all year long. So what is their plan to make sure that these areas are adequately covered to get a good biological inventory on what the potential impact could be? Certain species may use host plants or as food plants only certain times a year. That might not be as in other times of year, but that power line area would still be important. Would still be very important for those purposes. And of course, seasonal movement of certain species, birds. These scrubby growth areas are important for a group of birds that are declining drastically across the board. Brown thrasher being a good example of it, that uses these overgrown sort of successional growth areas. So to me, it sounds like the tall trees getting in contact with the power lines is their main concern according to their own website. So to me, manually removing those trees seems like the most important the best way to address this issue rather than using all these chemicals. And one of the things that was also interesting to me in the wording of these sensitive areas, in the statement they made that I read yesterday, when they listed several of these locations, they mentioned surface water, but made no mention of groundwater. So, I mean, why they would overlook that for a company that claims to have minimal environmental impact as one of their goals, just makes me shake my head, especially being out here in the Cape with the sandy soils and how quickly the chemicals can leach into the groundwater. And lastly, I just wanted to touch on the fact that they said they would be aware and assess and be sensitive to endangered species. Endangered species is an official designation, basically means we've gone a little too far. These are species that we should have made some better management decisions so they didn't get to the point of endangered, but there are other designations that if they truly care about their minimal environmental impact, they should pay attention to. A species of special concern is designated that way for a reason. And threatened species is another designation. And by ignoring those two, they can pretty much sweep under the rug any of these species that might be approaching a critical situation. And they already are in a rough situation, that's why they're designated as that. So seeing how they worded that and making sure that they left that omitted from their statement along with omitting groundwater was very concerning to me. And I think we all really need to pay attention to what their bottom line is. They claim that it is one of their key goals is minimum environmental impact, but I think we all know that's not what their goal is. Thank you.
This is the Sandwich Town Hall meeting on Eversource spraying us with poison.
Thanks, I'm Rob Richardson from Brewster. Actually, I'd like to, the previous speaker mentioned Eversource is bottom line. I've never seen Eversource's business plan, but I seriously doubt it includes poisoning their customers or rendering the Cape inhabitable so that people won't come here to visit or live here and buy their product. I mean, just think about that for a minute. They're in business to make money. Yes, they have a bottom line. But killing off your customer base is not a very smart business approach. The first gentleman mentioned the WHO's, the World Health Organization's IARC statement in March 2015 that cancer, or that glyphosate, one chemical that's found in Roundup, was declared a class 2, I believe, probable carcinogen. What he failed to mention was that in May 2016, WHO clarified that and issued a statement that it was highly unlikely that anyone would develop cancer from glyphosate. The two statements both stand still by the World Health Organization. One deals with harm, the 2015 statement, and the 2016 statement deals with risk. And it's a big difference, which sometimes I think activists forget, is that there's a difference between harm and risk. Many things are harmful. Electricity, airplane travel, potentially car travel. But what is the risk factor? And when people talk about toxic chemicals being placed on or being sprayed, they forget that no chemical, whether natural or man-made, is inherently toxic. No chemical. What is toxic is the concentration or the dose. The dose
Agent Orange, not inherently toxic.
Unless you talk in terms of levels of dosage in the aquifer, which no one seems to have any evidence that there is. There are these chemicals in aquifer, but unless you talk in terms of dose or level, it's nonsense. It just is. I'm sorry. There are studies. You know, he mentioned WHO. There's more than 800. I just speak about glyphosate because that's the only one I'm really familiar with it. And indeed, there are other chemicals. And I didn't really, with all due respect, I didn't really understand the previous speaker's statement. I read the plan. I didn't read it carefully. I scanned it, so it is an integrated plan. It offers mechanical elimination of shrubbery and weeds at some point, which will increase the carbon footprint, which no one seems to care about. The pesticides, I think, is the big fear factor that people have in their minds, and I'm not sure where that all comes from. There are over 800 scientific studies, and nearly, I don't know, a national regulatory agency that doesn't think glyphosate is safe if it's applied in the recommended according to regulations in that fashion. It basically interferes with the metabolic pathway of plants, which is not shared by human beings. People are not plants. Plants are not people. The latest enthusiasm for opponents of glyphosate is that it interferes with gut bacteria. There's a similar pathway in gut bacteria and some enzymes in the human stomach to what's in plants. But I don't know of any reputable study. I mean, reading these studies is like, eating shredded wheat without milk. It's difficult to absorb them, but it's like climate science. People say, well, the science on climate isn't settled. Okay, but that makes it sound like it's 50-50. I mean, if you had 100 scientists, 97 are going to say yes, global warming is caused by hydrocarbons in the atmosphere, and 3 are not. It's the same thing. Again, at least with glyphosate, I can't speak for the other chemicals. So, Israeli said there are liars, damn liars, and statisticians. A lot of studies you read will say glyphosate linked with cancer. Well, what does linked mean? Link means correlation. It doesn't mean causation. Linkage means that as one factor increases, the other factor increases. There is almost 100% correlation, it's 97.3%, between organic food sales and autism.
Mr. Richardson?
I'm over.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
If you can just finish your
Yeah, well, that was my last point. Do organic food sales cause autism? Of course not. Does autism cause people to buy organic food? Of course not. But yet, whenever linkage, correlation is talked, there's usually a third factor which is causing both of those. So if you look at studies, look at whether they're talking about correlation and linkage or causation. And again, it's very doubtful in my mind, at least, that glyphosate is going to cause all the harmful effects that some of these studies report to say. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Greaves, and I am from Centerville. I own a company called Goat Green Cape Cod. We have been putting our goats out in areas for 3 years, managing vegetation. I oppose Eversource and the use of their herbicides, and I know we've all said what we have about glyphosate and everything, so it's common knowledge that, yes, this stuff is a problem, it's bad. A lot of people have chosen to go an herbicide route free. A lot of the abutters on Eversource have also chosen to use, whether it's controlled burning, mechanical means. There are other alternatives to herbicides. Herbicides don't have to be used anymore. There's other ways you can do this. They weren't around forever. Weeds, etc. were managed. Roads were cleared. I think there's other solutions. And I think they need to be entertained, looked at, studied, whether it's goats, mechanical, anything. It does need to be addressed. So that's all. Thank you.
do. Good morning, my name is Christine Van Hook. I live in Sharon, Massachusetts. I lived in Dennisport, Massachusetts for 10 years and fought the battle initially to prevent MDAR from spraying herbicides. I was actively involved in town meetings with Green Cape and other agencies and with the Cape Cod Commission. And at the end of the day, after investing 10 years on Cape Cod, believing that the Cape Cod Commission and the state, and specifically Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, would protect, naively, I thought, our sole source aquifer when it became evident that indeed MDAR and Eversource were going to go ahead and spray without oversight on days that they were spraying, with the knowledge that there was a small window of opportunity between 5 and 7 a.m. when the wind speeds are applicable to be able to apply these herbicides according to the manufacturer's labels, not by some law or what they can say they can do. This is by their own manufacturer's label. And after 7 a.m. on most days on Cape Cod, the winds exceed 10 miles per hour, and they should not be sprayed. And first of all, in all the research that I did, and being educated about this, which during that process, MDAR specifically, first and foremost, has responsibility to work with the towns and communities to protect the Cape Cod sole source aquifer, and that has been non-existent. For decades, the utility company has used cutting and mowing methods to manage vegetation to protect the aquifer. And with all this talk about glyphosate, oh, you know, it's going to dissipate, things I heard in hearings from MDAR at the time. Oh, we're only going to spray this targeted area, it's not going to spread. Well, those statements don't add up. In 2003, the country of Denmark banned the spraying of Roundup after finding glyphosate contaminated the country's drinking water resources. There is now an existing problem of other emerging contaminants showing up in various towns. And certainly, spraying more chemicals, more herbicides, is not going to alleviate that situation. It's only going to exacerbate it. And I read in your vegetative management report, Mr. Hayes, whom I remember well, that now drift retardants are proposed in the VMP. Okay, so what are the drift retardants? More chemicals? More carrying agents? What are the effects and the possible chemical burdens and hazards to the public health? And, excuse me. And we don't know what those carrying agents, when you combine them with other chemicals, there's been no testing of what that effect on public safety can be. Eversource is not held to the same standards as how close they can spray to open waters and other professionals as other landscapers are. Do not go between a certain amount between private wells or open waters. I specifically heard at the town meetings MDAR employees say before the town officials they are not obligated to abide by those regulations. And since the spraying has been done, we don't know if there's been any annual or semi-annual testing on Cape Cod water supply, specifically testing to detect those chemicals that they are in fact not in Cape Cod water supply. And in closing, I'd just like to say, as I've said all along, MDAR and the communities of Cape Cod, all of the communities have signed requests to allow themselves to not spray, to allow themselves to manage their own vegetation, to work with MDAR to manage the vegetation. If an action or policy has a suspected risk of causing harm to the public or the environment, in the absence of scientific consensus that the action or policy is harmful, the burden of proof that it is not harmful falls on those taking actions, and that would be Eversource. Thank you.
Sue Fail, the Director of Green Cape. And on behalf of Green Cape, I'm opposing the Eversource 5-year Vegetation Management Plan for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard as published. There is not sufficient time to discuss our numerous objections to this VMP, so I'll attempt to address just a few and submit the remainder, 18 pages, in written form. The 2018 VMP outlines the state regulations governing rights-of-way vegetation maintenance standards and Eversource's proposed maintenance plan. Despite Eversource's acknowledgement that Massachusetts pesticide regulations require an integrated vegetation management plan approach, one that must prevent unreasonable risks to humans or the environment, the proposed VMP anticipates the application of several toxic herbicides without attempting mechanical, biological, or other alternative controls to the exclusion of chemicals. In ignoring this legally necessary step of implementing integrated vegetation management with an intention to avoid pesticide use only after mechanical, biological, and alternative controls fail, and in relying on pesticide use entirely, it inadequately addresses the unique environments and ecosystems of Cape Cod. Eversource not only places the residents, wildlife, aquatic life, and the sole source aquifer at risk, but also violates the purpose and intent of the state pesticide laws. It would be foolhardy to intentionally contaminate businesses, residential properties, and groundwater when other vegetation control methods are available and have been used successfully for decades by the utilities' predecessors. Allowing chemical treatments of the power line easements that interface residential and municipal properties and overlay an EPA-designated sole source aquifer is at best irresponsible and possibly criminal, and demonstrates a serious disregard for the firmly expressed opposition to this practice by the Cape community and the purpose and intent of federal and state pesticide laws, which ultimately are to protect. In addition, Eversource's 2018 VMP is clearly not meeting its stated goals and objectives listed in the VMP, which demand that they, quote, maintain the flexibility necessary to accommodate unique situations and the need for more appropriate techniques in accordance with new regulations, scientific advances, operational experience, and/or comments from municipalities, state agencies, and contractors following, or that they, quote, promote positive public relations with landowners, state and municipal officials, contractors, and the public. So here's how responsive Eversource has been to municipalities and the public on Cape Cod. Green Cape collected resolutions from all 15 towns on Cape Cod requesting that Eversource do not spray pesticides in their towns. Tens of residents, visitors, and businesses also signed petitions requesting the same, and they were delivered to the CEO of the company in Boston. In only 3 days, over 100 physicians and academics organized and sent a formal letter to the CEO opposing the spraying. Eversource has continually disregarded the firmly expressed opposition of the Cape communities, which have so emphatically and continuously expressed their continued opposition to right-of-way spraying. So much for those VMP goals and objectives. In addition, we strenuously object to the lack of record keeping required by the department regarding the identification and specific locations of herbicide use, which have characterized the last 2 spray cycles. It is a blatant attempt to avoid Mass Public Records law. As the county of Barnstable is burdened with porous sandy soils, it is particularly abhorrent that the heaviest single end user of pesticides on Cape Cod, which is Eversource, is now allowed to hide its usage altogether with a nod from the department Despite the charge to the foreman on page 36 of the VMP under contractor daily tasks, which states, in compliance with both regulations and Eversource policy, the contractors or crew member must complete daily vegetation management reports that include the amount, concentration, product name of herbicides, adjuvants, and dilutants, and the EPA registration number must be on file. I have sent requests for this information to MDAR and was told the utility no longer had to provide that information. This unwillingness to require the utility to provide important information to towns, businesses, right-of-way butters, and water suppliers does not reflect well on the department, which is employed in the service of the citizens of Massachusetts, after all. And based on the high potential for human environmental impacts stemming both from known and unknown hazards associated with the VMP chemicals listed, Green Cape believes that it would be irresponsible and contrary to the purpose and intent of Massachusetts pesticide laws and regulations for MDAR to approve this Eversource 2018 to 2022 VMP. To approve the use of any of these chemicals in the unique Cape Cod region when safer non-chemical alternatives exist and not require those primarily is a failure to protect and uphold human and environmental health and safety in this state. Your department has been charged with conserving and protecting natural resources and the environment, as well as enhancing the health, safety, and welfare of the people in the state of Massachusetts. Therefore, I respectfully request that you disapprove the 5-year VMP for Eversource for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, and I wish you would urge the utility to review and incorporate alternative maintenance options which will not put the aquifer and the residents and the economy that rely on it at any further risk. Thank you.
Good morning. I don't expect you to know the answer to this, but we'd love to have it. I would. This will be, they've been spraying our aquifer for 10 straight years. I wasn't aware that this was going to be an annual event. When summer comes, that MDAR, through the auspices of the Department of Agriculture and Resources, it's going to be an annual event running up and down the Cape spraying pesticides. We do have there's a map here, you might want to take a look at it if you have it. That's from the Cape Cod Commission, and then it superimposed the power lines that go up and down the Cape, and you're over 78% of the Cape Cod water supply. I don't believe you're allowing somebody to spray stuff over Quabbin Reservoir, but Cape Cod, forget about it. I've been down here 38 years, and when I came down, the health departments were in charge of the pesticide spraying within their cities and towns. But the state preempted us and took it away with no thought that we have a sole source aquifer, which is the whole reason we do it. When I came down here, Commonwealth Electric was the local electric company, and they did not use pesticides in particular because of a lot of respect for the Cape community and the water supply. It was only when it became Eversource, which is, as I understand it now, their headquarters is in Hartford, Connecticut, or something, that this is done. And in this annual event, is this going to be an annual event item for the future forever? It doesn't seem to be a very sustainable practice. And there's lack of oversight. You guys don't even have inspectors out with them. You trust what they're doing. And I've been told that, oh, well, they're qualified, they've been trained, they know what they're doing. Well, you know what, if I build a house, the wiring inspector doesn't say, oh, they know what they're doing, I don't come out there. I'm not watching it. So we have this notification of abutters is a farce. Most people that I talk to never get anything from MDAR coming. They're supposed to know when they're coming. Their kids, that's their property. Are their kids can't play on their own land, and they're going to get exposed and bring it into the house? There are studies that have found pesticides used outside get brought into the home. You guys are, I don't know. I really lost more respect for MDAR and that part of the government. I'll tell you a little bit about the other concerns, health concerns. So are the herbicides. Triclopyr and imazapyr, they have breakdown products, trichlopropyrandolinol, TCP, and quinolinic acid, which have neurological effects on test animals. And these can be at very low doses. Respectfully, the man was wrong. As you should know now, anybody that's dealing with toxicology, the dose does not make the poison when you're talking about endocrine disrupting chemicals. And that's going to be those nerve toxins. The herbicide escort contains formaldehyde, as I understand it, a known human carcinogen. And of course, now we're adding into the glyphosate, which the World Health Organization and now California, that it's a probable human carcinogen. What are you people thinking? I'll let you a little know about Hyannis recently has been, because this is how the outer government does not protect us. The EPA, you guys, anybody. And the firefighting foams were used, and Hyannis water systems drinking that stuff now. They're an environmental justice community. I may sound a little, I'm just trying to stress, these are very important things. And they have to pay $6 million, the people in Hyannis, which are some of the least, the lowest income people on the Cape, and they're more of a mixed group of people, and they have to pay for that. And worse than that, they had to drink the water, as I did when I worked in Hyannis for 30 years, drinking that compound. It wasn't until the Silent Spring, the state didn't help us. It wasn't until the Silent Spring Institute, which the state doesn't even like to fund, came down and tested the emerging contaminants of concern and found it, that it finally got off the plate, and finally now we're doing the treatment. But we don't get a lot of help from Boston. I gotta tell you that. It's like we're the poor orphans down here. And think about the sole source aquifer. We can't afford more of this. And I'm going to give you one map, just because I got it, because these are the wells that got contaminated in Hyannis, and the people there say they should not be spraying any in this particular area. They shouldn't be just spraying any of the Cape. They should go back to the mechanical means when Commonwealth Electric owned it, and you guys ought to put your big pants on, big boy pants on, and maybe people I know you guys are just doing a job. I don't mean to be, but we gotta set the message and tell those people up there. Here. That's so amazing.
So I just want to thank you for that passionate speech. That was fantastic. I agree with everything you said over there. My name is Joshua Mason. Good morning. I'm from Dennis. I'm a candidate for state representative for the 1st Barnstable District. There you go. Now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the VMP, why I'm against the use of VMP with the use of herbicides, excuse me. And I want to talk a little bit about glyphosate. Glyphosate is a core ingredient found in weed killers such as Roundup, the world's most widely produced herbicide. Glyphosate is used pretty liberally in streets, parks, roadsides of many towns and cities to control the growth of grass and weeds, but was classified in March 2015 by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which is an extension of the World Health Organization, as probably carcinogenic to humans, as stated before by some of the other speakers. Many European countries, including Holland, Denmark, Sweden, have banned or restricted the use of glyphosate herbicides because of its alleged ties to a myriad of health problems. I'm not just talking about cancer either. There are other health concerns as well. The myriad health concerns include birth defects, kidney failure, celiac disease, colitis, and autism. These are all very serious issues, and in fact, another study that was done in Argentina points to a correlation between glyphosate use and the decline in activity to honeybee colonies, which are extremely, extremely important to our environment. In 2013, friends of the Earth Europe appointed independent laboratory in Germany, to test urine samples from people in 18 countries for glyphosate. You know what the results showed? There were traces in 44% of those people that they studied. 44%. Because of long-term human feeding trials would be unethical, the evidence has been mostly limited to studies of agricultural exposures. However, further evidence, including animal studies, led the International Agency for Research on Cancer to its probably carcinogenic classification. Glyphosate has been linked to the growth of tumors in mice and rats. And there is also what the International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies as mechanic evidence, such as DNA damage to human cells and exposure to glyphosate. The totality of the evidence has been strong enough to convince cities like Chicago and Paris to make their public spaces glyphosate-free. The city of Vancouver has gone even further, banning public and private use of the herbicides that include glyphosate. Alternative uses to glyphosate that we can apply to our environment and get very similar results would be the use of maybe more hand weeding, pruning, mowing, edging, hot foams, and I know this sounds a little crazy, but goats and sheep. These are all possibilities. And I also want to add, fungal oils to also prevent regrowth. I believe personally that we're on the verge of a bit of an Erin Brockovich moment here on the Cape. The time is now to implement the elimination of glyphosate and to protect our drinking water, our environment, and the health of our communities. And the question that Eversource needs to ask themselves, in the end, do you want to be held accountable for all of this? Thank you.
You got a possible statement. It's pretty cool.
I'm Abraham Brody. I presented a map that Laura Kelly handed out. I run Max, which is my own company doing computer consulting and geographic information systems. My wife is a master gardener and a master naturalist, and she's helped me look at the concerns of glyphosate, and I bring this letter to MDAR. Dear MDAR, I am against the Vegetation Management Plan 2018-2022. It's written by Eversource because it lists the use of chemical herbicides. Based on the data collected from MassDEP, USGS, and MassGIS Oliver, I was able to find 10 wells and 8 groundwater discharge points near enough to the power lines mapped by USGS to be of concern to the plan. I recognize the 50-foot buffer and to a private well as a regulatory concern. However, it has been my experience that groundwater and non-point source pollution does not restrict itself to arbitrary boundaries such as this. And because regulations have not caught up with the existing studies as to the impact of herbicides such as glyphosate, the Vegetation Management Plan needs to be revised for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard because we have a unique hydrology. Most importantly, the hydrology shows we have a single source aquifer. What that means is regardless of where the spraying for vegetation management happens on the Cape, every citizen is going to be adversely affected in their water quality. This affects both drinking water and farming water. Please consider discussing alternatives such as hand pruning to Eversource. As Laura Kelly of POCA has informed me, this has been discovered to be the most effective and safe means of controlling vegetation around power lines. I've also thought about the fact that we have alpacas as a possible way of controlling plants around the power lines. and sheep certainly. And every one of these methods is safer. And we have to also think about the fact that oil-based weed trimmers are also affecting our groundwater too, because there's a lot of chemicals from the oil getting in the groundwater. So we have electric-based weed trimmers, and we can use those instead. So we have to think about all of this, and they're good lawnmowers that are electric-based too. And that is probably a better alternative than having to depend on all these oil and gas-based mechanical means. So MDAR, please consider these alternatives. We need a safe drinking water, and that's the most important thing here. Not only that, the people who think that the chemicals aren't a concern to our bodies, we are a top predator. And as a top predator, all the chemicals are amplified through the food chain up to the top. So what's a small amount to a bee is going to be a big amount to us. And as a result, the Pesiticides are causing the bee extinctions. There's 7 endangered bees out there, at least. And some of them are dying off by the millions a day. And why is this happening? Because we aren't looking at our chemical impact to the environment. And without bees, we have no flowers. Without flowers, we have no fruit, no vegetables, and then we'll have no food. We'll be left with Soylent Green. If anyone has seen that movie or hasn't seen it, see it again. Because who wants to be eating people as our final source of food? Because that's what Soylent Green was about. So we're looking at a final consequence here to our inaction. So let's make some action.
Roberta McDonald, and I live in Harwich. I would like to stand here and tell you that there is a direct cause and effect relationship between pesticides and cancer and other health problems, but I can't do that. It's not been proven yet. A look at current research, not the kind of research you see in the VMP, such as research that's done in the Agricultural Health Study by the National Institutes of Health, shows that there are connections to many health issues, such as cancer and even sleep apnea. And those things need further study. Pesticides that were once thought to be safe are now being stopped. In England, they found that bees were being contaminated by pesticides, and so they stopped using that particular pesticide. And now, 5 years later, they see that that pesticide is still in the environment. Big surprise. There's a lack of current science in the VMP. The references in Appendix 10 are 10, 20, even 30 years old. The section on safety refers mostly to employee safety. How does spraying affect our health and our water supply is the important question. And everyone here has talked about the sole source aquifer, which the EPA has designated and must be protected from the risk of contamination. And here's the important part. There is no testing of water in any town on Cape Cod because the tests are too expensive. So here we are every year being sprayed upon by MDAR and Eversource, and we don't even know if our water supply is already contaminated. If our water supply is contaminated now by pesticides, we have no other option for clean water. And Eversource is ready to say they were only responsible for the 1% in that very specious phone survey they keep. talking about. The pesticide VMP has gone on for a number of years, and it's time for MDAR to suspend approval and have Eversource contribute to the testing of our water supply. The easement growth should be under control by now. It's been quite a while that we've had this pesticide spraying, and the vegetation can easily be cleared with hand tools, not even power tools at this point. It's easy to pull up these saplings in the sandy soil by just using your hand. So I think overkill has been done in the past. And secondly, again from the Eversource website, which is a wonderful source of information, accountability. We hold ourselves accountable for the impact our business might have on the environment, meeting in as many cases and exceeding all environmental laws and regulatory commitments and requirements. We actively work with customers, community members, environmental groups, regulatory agencies, and civic and business partners to promote transparent operations. Our employees, as well as vendors, suppliers, contractors, are expected to adhere to all environmental laws stated in our Code of Conduct. Supplier Code of Conduct and RFP process. We are committed to tracking and monitoring our progress via a set of metrics which receives regular executive leadership review. We work every day to ensure that our operations have minimal impact on the environment, including project permitting, spill response, and emissions reporting. Where's the water in that? In actuality, Eversource has not followed its own guidelines in the past, and MDAR has not regulated as the law directs. Some of the past incidents with the most recent VMP. Number one, appropriate notifications are not given to abutters or town officials about upcoming locations of spraying. William Hayes tells Harwich Selectmen notification is not necessary. He wouldn't bother closing the windows in his house. The selectmen disagreed and asked for specific notification of spraying being done. Michael Duran says sprayers need to be protected from the abutters. 2. Spraying in very high wind conditions in West Barnstable was observed. MDAR was notified, and sprayers were told, move somewhere else. There was no other action taken. 3. Documents provided to MDAR from NSTAR Eversource showed that spraying was done when wind was 0 to 2 miles an hour. This is a violation of label guidelines. Result, Eversource no longer needs to provide spraying documentation to MDAR. Is this true? 4. A proper investigation with samples taken of the Seahorse Farm overspraying in Harwich should have been done immediately instead of 2 weeks later. Sprayers had ignored the owner's request not to spray in the area. 5. EPA region officials warned MDAR that label requirements must be followed. MDAR rubber stamped the wild pig that year and added a sentence to the approval talking about what EPA said. That was all. 6. Maps were shown to be inadequate and are still incorrect. 7. The sprayers are careless and on a tight schedule. They finish in a week and have sprayed during windy and rainy conditions. Okay, in summary, Due to the lack of statistical data on the health of our water supply as it pertains to pesticides and the lack of accountability in the spraying process, I urge you to deny the VMP in favor of a 5-year moratorium on use of pesticides on Cape Cod, while accurate statistics are gathered on water quality, efficiency of mechanical clearing over previous pesticide use, and accountability and good faith efforts by Eversource and the Commonwealth are in place. And finally, I'd like to say that in the past, Eversource has said that spraying components and MDAR and Eversource have said that the spraying components all say the same thing, and therefore we're all in cahoots with each other. We're actually talking about facts, and all of us know the facts.
Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Taub. I'm here in a dual capacity. I'm here as a citizen, but I also represent the town of Brewster in its legal efforts to stop the spraying of pesticides on our rights of ways. I will indicate to you that it was a successful effort by the town of Brewster that stopped the spraying of pesticides in Brewster in the year 2017 because of the legal efforts that the town pursued. I'd like to use this as an opportunity to remind you that the struggle against the pesticides has to be thought of as political and legal. And I dare say you're confusing the political and the legal. I'm sorry. When we, for lack of a better word, object to elements in the plans that MDAR is reviewing, MDAR says, where's the proof? And we say, oh, pesticide studies, species, blah, 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 blah. And they say, show us the harm on Cape Cod. And we say, oh, come on. I mean, once it's over, it's over. If the crap is in the water, we're finished. Okay? So what about the preventive principle, if you will? And MDAR says, look, we have a duty, and we are executing our duty, and you have to believe that they're doing it. If you believe they're in cahoots with the electric company, you're wrong. But they are bound by statute and regs. And when we object and they approve, and then we bring an administrative appeal, Eversource says, you people don't have standing. You don't meet the aggrievement definition. And I'm here to tell you that you don't. Unless you have a fact, a dead bee on your right of way, and somebody who says that bee died because of this, you have not satisfied the legal standard. I'm sorry. So relative to the legal challenges to MDAR, all of these notices are lovely and will have limited, if any, usefulness given our collective ends. That said, this is only the second VMP. And in the past, as I understand it, am I right about this being the second VMP only? I think so. I think the first one was in 2013. Before that, the towns had control. In any event, they relied on the passage of the VMP, which was not adequately fought the first time. And then anything in the YLP that was consistent with the VMP satisfied the standard. So this is a unique opportunity to challenge the VMP. And I suggest to you that the focus should be on the inadequacies of the VMP itself. If we end up at the YLP stage, then I think we have only harm. But at this stage, I think we have both harm and inadequacy, and I urge you to be very specific in your comments and be able to back them up. Last thing I'll say, if you don't say it now, you can't say it later. So don't be afraid of being a little creative also. Thank you. Thank you.
Patrick Ellis. Did you want to comment?
He was here.
He was here.
Could we come back to him?
C.W. Rice.
I will say Attorney Todd is a hard act to follow. My name is C.W. Rice. I am a residential taxpayer in the town of Orleans, one of the 17 municipalities noticed in the filing. And I'm here today to object to the 5-year vegetation management plan for Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, that was submitted by Eversource Energy, Eastern Mass, and remember this date, December 14th, 2017. I agree and acknowledge that 333 CMR Pesticide Board is the regulatory force in place for this action, and they are authorized by Mass General Law, Chapter 132, Section 3, Pesticide Board. I pay residential property taxes in the town of Orleans, and that is, as I said, one of the 17 municipalities. I obtain my household water for washing, drinking, and cooking from one of two sources. One is shallow driven well, 15 feet in depth, driven into the freshwater lens, which is part of the Nauset lens. And two, in bulk, from the town of Orleans public water supply. That water is trucked in via a NSF water quality water tank and stored on site for future use. The town of Orleans public water supply draws its water from a well field that draws from the Monomoy lens, also a relatively shallow aquifer. Therefore, I have standing to comment on the VMP as both a residential taxpayer and a user of a private well and a public well. The 333 CMR 11.1 talks about the purpose of 333 CMR 11. And it's to establish statewide and uniform regulatory process which will minimize the uses of and potential impacts from herbicides and rights of way on human health and environment, while allowing for the benefits to public safety provided by selective use of herbicides. There are 4 specific goals that are articulated in the Code of Massachusetts regulation for this. I'm going to skip 2 of them and only focus on goal number 2, which is establish standards, requirements, and procedures necessary to prevent unreasonable risk to humans or the environment, taking into account the economic, social, and environmental costs and benefits of the use of any pesticide. And 4, establish a mechanism for public and municipal review of right-of-way maintenance plans. Okay. I am here today to discuss 2 aspects of the process. Part 1, a failure to submit in a timely manner. A vegetation management plan is defined in 333 CMR 11.02. 333 CMR 11.05, Section 1, Paragraph A, states clearly and in plain, simple language, quoted, all VMPs shall be submitted by the applicant no later than September 1st, prior to the calendar year of the proposed first year of maintenance, September 1st. The VMP submitted by Eversource, Eastern Energy Massachusetts applicant, to the department has a submission date of December 14th, 2017, which is almost 15 weeks and 104 days past the due date of September 1st. For purposes of my objection today, I'm accepting the date on the cover of the submitted VMP. However, it's quite possible the actual date or reception or delivery to the department may be later than December 14th. I have provided an exhibit, which is the cover sheet of that document, and it clearly indicates December 14th. The 333 CMR Pesticide Board, Section 1105, Vegetation Management Plan, requires and sets those deadlines, that's that September 1st deadline, to allow for reasonable and responsible review of an applicant's 5-year plan by all concerned parties. A shortening of the timelines by late submittal is not in the public's best interest, nor is it in the best interest of those affected municipalities and county agencies in which proposed work is being contemplated, and public interest groups that have a mission to protect protection of the Cape and Islands' unique environmental conditions. Therefore, since the submission was not timely and is inconsistent with the regulatory guidelines, it must and should be returned to the applicant without any action or approval by the Pesticide Board, citing a failure to submit in a timely manner, in accordance with 323 CMR 11.05, Section 1, Paragraph A, and to be in conformance with the stated purpose and intent of 323 CMR 11.012. That was one of the goals I read earlier. Back in November, on November 10th, I addressed a letter to Commissioner of MDAR and copied a number of Commonwealth officials. Yes. I didn't realize there was a time constraint because I came in late. I apologize. Okay? Okay, I should have announced that every talk. I will quickly continue and give you 2 more minutes and I'll summarize, okay?
I'll give my time to the current speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Or you're not Ms. Ellis, but thank you. Basically, I wrote the commissioner back on November 10th, inquiring why I had not seen the notice for the 5-year plan. I followed the environmental monitor as part of my occupation and had not seen the notice. I never received a response to that letter. However, since I did write MDAR and a number of people in the right-of-way department, I presume that put them on notice that I had an interest in this, and therefore, if a submittal came in late or if the board was going to take some action to allow it, that I might be notified. Never was. December 7th, the board met, and as far as I can determine, when I say the board, Pesticide Board, as far as I can determine, there was no discussion of the VMP. And in fact, the board met, I believe, on December 7th, and the VMP was submitted by their date, December 14th. Therefore, what I want to know is, under what authority was this VMP accepted? And under whose authority was the process forward? Why was the applicant given a special privilege to file well beyond the required date? The other aspect of my comments deal with the misleading notices and defective public notices. A notice was put out, and the notice that was put out in the Environmental Monitor, January 24, 2018, Volume 89, Issue 6, had a linked notice. In other words, you go onto the monitor and you click on it, and it will take you to a formal notice. The notice, number 1, was written frequently in plural, indicating multiple hearings. Only one hearing was listed. The date to have comments done was March 2nd in the notice, which is well before the 45 days allowed by statute. Okay? So there was an attempt to abridge the public's right to be able to comment within 45 days. They also used the term until the close of business, and comments period end on the business Monday, March 2nd. They couldn't even get the date. March 2nd is tomorrow, that's a Friday. Okay? So the notice contains several discrepancies, inaccuracies, and could be construed to be misleading and lacking in terms of basic knowledge. What is interesting, and I've submitted a copy of this for you, the Massachusetts Secretary of State publishes a guideline on how to do notices, and specifically prohibits the use of close of business. Notices must contain the exact date, time, and person, none of which were on that. It was a generic address, no person to address it to, and close of business. What is close of business? I don't know. You know, I don't punch a time clock there, so I don't know what it is.
You closed yesterday.
Yeah. Subsequently, shortly thereafter, in February 7th, a second notice was published for a hearing in Chatham. Okay? I would submit that that second notice kicks off another 45-day review period. Therefore, the review period date of March 16th in that notice is again lacking. It should be March 24th if you go strictly by 45 days. For those, now the most, I'm going to wrap this up in about 1 second here. Therefore, I recommend highly that the applicant did not meet the legal standard to file in a timely manner. Hell, they've had 5 years to get this thing done, and most of it's cut and paste from what they submitted before. The other thing that I found most interesting is first section of the VMP introduction. I quote, Eversource Energy, Eastern Mass, hereby submits this Vegetation Management Plan, VMP, in compliance with 333 CMR 11, Rights-of-Way Management Regulations, Appendix 3, Footnote 1, Exhibit 9. What's interesting, they're stating they're totally in compliance. Here they filed the document 104 days late. How is that in compliance? Okay? So that brings the question, what other things are perhaps misstating or misleading in their filing? I thank you for your time, and we'll be submitting some additional comments on toxology, but I really urge you to discuss with your legal counsel the timeliness of this filing. I do a lot of public filings for a lot of different things, and I've had filings denied because the messenger didn't get to an office by 4 o'clock. Thank you very much.
I'm going to have to wrap this up for a little bit because my battery's about to die, but this has been the general theme of the thing, so I'll be doing interviews afterwards, so check back soon. All right, peace, everybody. Oh, and if I talk, I'll have someone film it. All right, peace.
I was in the Virgin Marines 40 years, and I had the pleasure or displeasure of
the Department of Agricultural Resources, and also legal counsel for the Pesticide Board. And this is Clayton Edwards. He's the Rights of Way coordinator for the department.
So there's nobody here from Eversource.
Hi, is there anyone here from Eversource? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Do you want me to video the gentleman?
You're welcome.
Okay. Can you have somebody to man one other camera?
How do we know that we're agreed if there's gray in the gray?
Okay.
Thank you. That would be helpful.
We'll get to the Q&A period after this.
Yeah, take a picture.
So, Dean Fugere, independent journalist. I've actually done a couple videos about this, and I'm sure some of my subscribers and other people that watch my stuff have sent some letters to MDAR, so I hope you've enjoyed those. I'm going to keep this really simple. I'm not going to go into the science and all that because it's inconclusive. You guys are basically telling us that you want to let a company come here and spray our drinking water. That's essentially what's happening. So what I'm going to say to you is I'll go out right now, get some glyphosates, round up and cut, and you two can drink it in front of us and prove to us that it's safe. Are you willing to do that? I'll take your silence as a no. Thank you.
That's stupid? Really? Would you like to drink a glass of glyphosate? You said it's safe. I'm just asking right now. It's a question.
Would you drink 5 gallons of water?
Yes, I would drink 5 gallons of water,
really
but not all
would?
at once.
Or not all
I'm
at
asking you to drink a tiny glass of glyphosate.
Nobody's going to do that, and that's not
Why
the
not?
issue. Because you're not going to get a glass of glyphosate.
A glass
out your
of
drinking
Coca-Cola
water.
is not good for you, and I'll go drink a glass of that. Will you go drink a glass of
Then pour
glyphosate?
the Coca-Cola on your weeds.
Okay.
Okay?
It would kill them too. It would.
You're talking nonsense.
It's not
friend.
nonsense, sir.
You really. You people just don't get it.
You people, who's you people exactly? Please define that for me.
People that rely on activist science.
On activist science, or should I rely on people like Kevin Folta who've been hacked in their emails and shown to be paid off by Monsanto?
those types of independent scientists. Is that who we count on?
The program, the educational program that he represented was paid by Monsanto, not Kevin Felton.
Really? His emails actually state otherwise.
Yeah.
And I've shown those online to people, so it's pretty interesting to know the case.
I'm sure you have. This whole thing is about fear-mongering.
Fear-mongering?
Fear-mongering. Yes,
that's what we're doing here. Yeah. That's what we're all about.
And incidentally,
I don't have any fear.
If you plan to post that video.
Actually, no, I don't. It's actually live right now. So.
Is it? Great.
You can sue me if you want, but I'm a journalist, so I know my rights.
I'm not going to sue you.
I want to know your connection to any of these. Are you connected in any way to Eversource?
No.
And any company that has anything to do with Eversource?
No.
I'm not buying it.
You're not buying it?
No. Yeah. Have a nice day, sir. Enjoy your glyphosate. Keep eating your GMOs. It's doing a lot for you intellectually.
It's a political statement.
The whole thing is political.
All right, so we're going to get started with this afternoon portion. So just for a little bit of public comment period works.
Hope you enjoyed.
It's not a regulatory public comment period. So
yeah, I'm this way in real life, just like online.
Normal regulatory public process. However, we do have our own.
Introduce it. Hello, everybody. This is Titus Frost, Dean Fougere. I'm live here in Sandwich, Mass. After the Townhall meeting, and I'm going to be interviewing. Yet, so maybe if you could introduce yourself. Go ahead, Rachel.
My name is Rachel Fredrickson. I'm from Cape Cod, and I love it here.
Very nice.
I'm Laura Kelly. I'm the president of POCA Cape Cod. That's POCCA. That stands for Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer. Concerned citizens got together and realized that we can do more to, lessen our own impact above our aquifer. And we're reaching to town departments as well as state departments on how we can continue to do more for our natural resources here. So that's what brings us here today. This is a hearing. It's Eversource's public hearing, first ever in history. At Sandwich Town Hall, it was 11 to 2. First hour and a half was the public getting up, speaking, their strongest words, why they don't want Eversource to use herbicides along power lines for vegetation management anymore. You can go back to hand pruning selectively as an answer. But regardless, you get a chance to see that, I'm sure. And after the public spoke, the state spoke. And this is MDAR, the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, that oversees Eversource, which is our local utility, that maintains vegetation underneath the power lines with herbicides. So they use herbicides to kill plants to keep our electricity going. And that's something I question all the time. Can't we have electricity without harming our drinkable water here on Cape Cod? Do you know that the depth to our drinkable water is somewhere between 5 feet on this part of the Cape up to, at the deepest, 80 feet in Sandwich? So that means 5 out of 6 lenses. It's around 5 to 20 feet between the surface level to our drinkable water. Their regulations say 50 feet. They cannot spray within 50 feet. They're violating their own written regulations. This is all that we have to go by, are these standards, these regs, right? And we've been educating them for years that this is the hydrology, this is the natural hydrology of Cape Cod, and yet they still continue to say, well, the EPA allows herbicides, so the state's gonna allow this. Go ahead, Eversource, happy day, do it again. That's why we're here today. We're talking about the VMP, the Vegetation Management Plan, that lasts for 5 years. This is our last chance to get involved and make a difference for 5 years. So this is the first hearing. There's going to be another hearing in Chatham on Tuesday, March 6th, 11 a.m. in the morning for an hour and a half. And then they speak to us for an hour and a half, what their regulations are and how they come to write them and such. And it really gets heated. It got heated in there today in Sandwich with the townspeople and with the state and Eversource all in the same room. And when it became like open, back and forth, it was real. People were really standing up saying, how can you write that you're doing the best management practice and use herbicides when other countries are banning this? And all they could say is, we're doing the best we can, and the feds allow it, and you know, the people are pissed. They're out there really fighting for this. As you can tell, if you want to take a swoop around, we're up here right now at the Sandwich Townhall here in downtown Sandwich on Main Street, and it's going on right now. We just stepped out for a minute to kind of let you know what's going on inside. This is real time. What did you think of what happened in there? Was that crazy?
It was very tense. People are very opinionated, and we're all in agreement that it's not healthy for our water and for ourselves. It's not good.
It's not safe, right? Okay, so you mix, they list 9 different types of herbicides. They don't mix them all together at once. Okay, that's great. But mixing anything together with Roundup, glyphosate, the active ingredient, if anybody can read and Google, it changes 100 times stronger than with it by itself. So don't worry, we're only mixing 2 or 3 or 4 things together with a petroleum-based surfactant. And don't worry, the surfactant, we're gonna put in a stronger surfactant when it's windy. So it just doesn't make me feel comfortable. It doesn't make me feel safe. It doesn't make me feel, I mean, there were people there today, Christina and her husband, that moved off of Cape Cod because their fear of their drinking water being contaminated specifically by Eversource in this actual situation. Do you know the last 5-year plan, vegetation management plan, last 5 years, they used over 10,000 gallons of herbicides to maintain a little vegetation on power lines. This is what we're trying to prevent today. Standing up to our state saying, no, we don't want this. So they allow this comment period until March 30th. If anybody wants to get involved, to write, it has to be a fact. So this is another curveball. Guess what? Are you a scientist?
No.
I'm not a scientist. Are you a scientist?
Yes.
Well, then you can get quoted, because if you're not a scientist and you don't quote a scientist, it won't even count. Like, they're only taking comment letters that are fact-based. So what does that mean? I mean, it's just yet another they're making this not easy. We're the public. This is a public hearing. We are supposed to be able to speak to our state. You know, whether we're a mother and a child saying, we just want drinkable water for my next, you know, of kin. Like, this is, they're not allowing it. You know, they'll let us speak it, but they're not counting this towards their vegetation management plan. So again, I'm calling it disconnect. There's so much disconnect going between the townspeople that are standing up the best way that we know how for our natural resources here, at speaking to the state the best way we know how, in their little criteria of time, at their location with the incorrect address that they put down. You know, I mean, we're doing what they're asking the best that we know how, and it's still not good enough. They're still going to just rubber stamp this and let Eversource go ahead and spray potentially another 10,000 gallons just to maintain a little vegetation on our power lines on Cape Cod. So now's the time to get involved. We have to the end of March 30th to write a comment letter. It doesn't have to be long, but name, address, because they're going to check, date, that you are against the VMP. That's the big deal. You have to say, I'm against the VMP, Vegetation Management Plan, 2018 to 2022, 5 years. And then you give your reason, and there's 2 possible categories that we've kind of narrowed it down to choose from. Hydrology, which is the best one. Please go with hydrology. It barely came up today, by the way, where it's the proving where our lenses are on the Cape. There's 3 lenses here, there's 3 lenses here. The depth to our drinkable waters. There was no hydrologist, there was no ecotoxicologist talking about this kind of stuff. That would be something that we can bring up and chat on Tuesday. And that's great. You just link you say, I live in the town of Eastham, and it's 10 feet to my drinkable water, and here's a map. Psh, done. You know, it doesn't have to be 7 pages long. It could be 1 paragraph long, but it needs to be proof and strong. The other topic is toxicology. so you can talk about these herbicides. They didn't even list in the VMP that this is, again, another state free-for-all. They didn't even list this. So we're going off of the herbicides that they used the last 5 years, thinking that they're just going to do the same the next 5 years. That's all we have to go by. But the problem when writing a toxicology comment is, again, we're not scientists, and they just are going to say the EPA allows this, so that doesn't count. So we're not saying it's illegal. So we need to find a scientist from Germany and how that they proved it kills rats in 30 or 60 days or something. And literally take that quote, put it in your comment letter, send happy day. MDAR, Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, has to be snail mail. It has to be like on a piece of paper. I don't know why. And that address is going to go to Causeway Street, 500, Suite 500, Boston, Mass. 02114. We can get you that again at the end of the video. It's 251 Causeway Street, Suite 500. That's it. Boston, Mass. 02114. That's who to write to. Attention, MDAR. Clayton Edwards, a coordinator, if you want to get details. But that's who we're writing to. We're writing to the state because the state is to approve Eversource's VMP plan that lists herbicides along our power lines. And, you know, what's the half-life of these things? 29 days? How long? I learned this yesterday. If you were to pour a gallon of water right there in our sandy soil, how long does it actually permeate? How fast does it go? Yesterday, there's the Barnstable soil sample of 1998. A couple of years old. I know it's outdated, but it's still our sandy soil on Cape Cod. Says that if any liquid, of course, there's going to be other types of liquids that bond to sand differently. I got that. But liquids travel 22 inches an hour. And if my drinking water is 5 feet away, because I live in Eastham, and they're saying to me the half-life is 29 days, add that up, Eversource. This is bullshit. I'm not happy with the state. They're not listening. They hear us, they're showing up, they're listening, but they're not hearing us. It's a difference, you know? They're sitting there saying, okay, check off that box, we showed up that day, we did that. Okay, and we did that. Okay, and we did that. But they're not changing a word. 5 years of education I've been working with this particular crew of people has done nothing. Nothing. They didn't change a word. All right, well, you want to hear what POCA did? I'll tell you. Thanks to the POCA team, we've got a separate VMP now for Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard. We have a total separate VMP plan now. That is separate from the rest of the state of Massachusetts. Why? Because we live on sandy soil, was my reason. So they gave us a whole entire separate plan, but they still put the word herbicide in it. So, all right, that's halfway there. Again, check out a box. Feeling is what I got. The other thing that the state allowed, that they've never allowed in history, is what's happening today. They granted us a hearing. They allowed the public to speak to them face to face. And they're also allowing one more hearing. That's Tuesday, Chatham, 11 a.m. Chatham Townhall, down around back, the annex. And that's 11 to 2 o'clock, March 6th, Chatham Townhall. That'll be the second hearing in history that's ever happened. So I want to thank the state for allowing this. I'm going to give them kudos where kudos is deserved. But they still didn't take out the word herbicide. So we are back at it again. And we will continue to educate them. That's what they're looking. That's why they need the facts. If we could actually find a fact, what they want is for us to prove harm. This is the big one, Dean, okay? Harm. What does harm mean? That you have to be sick directly after Eversource sprays. You have to, whatever, okay? This happened to a lady in Harwich. She had from her waist up these welts on the front and her back. And she was a horse farmer in Harwich 3 years ago. She saw this big cloud, and she thought it was fog rolling in. And then she said there was a smell to it, so she went over there, and they were sprayers. Now the spray is supposed to not be sprayed after 10 miles, more than 10 miles an hour. It's supposed to just go to the plant. That's what they say. Don't worry, it just hits the plant. Don't worry. Well, the actual day of is a little different sometimes. Let me tell you, great disconnect. She broke out. There's pictures. She went to the town. She went to the state. The state showed up 30 days later to actually test her property. And after those major rain storms in between, we were taking notes of the dates and how much it rained. They said there's no sign of any herbicides on this campus. And they said that it was the gasoline tank from the sprayers. She drives tractors every day. She's on a horse farm. You know, so it's just completely, they disregard our, you know, when we finally go to them and say we have a problem, they disregard it. No, it's something else. You know, and that's not fair. We're doing our best to bring to them what the harm is, and they still say that's not good enough. So they want us to be sick, and they want us to prove it's in our wells. They say, Laura, you have to give us a test that Eversource sprayed that day, and it is in that water, that well, and it's contaminated due to Eversource spraying herbicides directly. Guess what? Those two questions, a harm and a harm, whether it's a person or a well, guess what? Those are impossible questions to answer. You're waiting for us to be sick. That's sickening. It makes me sick, and it's so unfair. So I've gone to boards of health and water boards and asked that they get involved, because their main purpose is to protect and preserve for people to not get sick, for our wells to not be contaminated. The state is asking to hear from them, not the boards of selectmen. I went out and got 21 town boards of selectmen against this, and they threw it away. This is last year's work, thanks to the POCA team. And they said, Laura, that's the selectmen. They don't have any standing. We want to hear from the boards of health and water boards. So we're going to come back at them this year with the, you know, comments, strong comment letters, fact-based, from the boards of health and water boards in their mission statement, saying that they're here to protect and preserve, and that they should not be waiting for their harm to be proven to the state. This is ridiculous. This is what we have to live with this. Like, this is what we're working on every single day and night. Trust me, I'm like wired. I apologize, but it's been a lot to get to this point. And for them, I am mortified what went on in there today. For them not to actually listen to us, to fight back at the people saying, oh, no, we don't handle that. No, we don't do that. You're speaking out of line, is bullshit. They asked us here. They wanted to hear from the public, and all we're doing is trying to communicate with them. And again, they disregard us. They say no. And I am completely appalled. I can't believe that we continue this, and we will. Don't worry. I'm in a moment. I'll get my strength back, and we're gonna Tuesday be, you know, back in our suits and ready to do this again. But getting involved now, literally, it's the next 5 years. So I can't help but stress that. If March 30th comes and goes, we gotta live with this. We all are in this together. We all visit Cape Cod or live here. Even if we don't drink the water, we're using the water. And this is what we need to stand up to and protect now, or forever hold our peace for 5 freaking years. Like, I can't believe it. Who would make a 5-year plan? So they just stop us from talking to them for 5 years? That's what I think. I think, okay, so we can bug them less, you know, like, I don't think that's fair at all, you know. I mean, they're going to have the yearly operational plan, but if we can't stop them at the VMP, how are we going to stop them at the YOP? You know, it just is a game for them. I see it. I'm feeling like they're playing us. You know, they're subsiding us, everything's fine, we're working within the EPA standards, don't worry. You know who else worked in the EPA standards? DDT, Agent Orange. I could get on a list. I don't want to bring that stuff up, but literally, those are emerging contaminants, the same thing as Roundup, imazapar, trichlopyr, glyphosate, ammonium, the herbicides that we're talking about here today, and the petroleum-based surfactants. Oh my gosh, ridiculous. What do you think?
It's not okay. If you have any creative arguments for us that we can maybe take into consideration for Tuesday's meeting, you can send them in to
POCA. POCCA, Cape Cod, Gmail, @gmail.com. Laura Kelly, write to me, call me, find me at POCCA, Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer, because if you can't make it, oh my gosh, who makes a meeting at 11 a.m. and then 2 in a row at 11 a.m.? You have to have no life, no family, no job in order to show up. But anyway, regardless, get us the information. We will be glad to send it on. We've been doing writing parties. They've been very successful, having common folk realize what they need to do in order to make a fact is like a lesson. So I've been opening up libraries 3 hours every Sunday afternoon, different libraries, and it's been great. People are really coming out. I am so impressed by our community. We've got thousands of followers. People are getting involved. People are coming to these things on 11 a.m. meetings. And so I feel hope. You know, that's something I want to just finish up with, is I do feel hope. It's not over yet. It's like the bees. We know the bees are dying, but they're still here. So there's hope. You know, it's that kind of thing. Like they're contaminating our water. 10,000 gallons. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's not leaving these lenses. We are consuming it. We're the only ways that is like drawing from these lenses. They're like humans. So, you know, it's not that they're contaminated to a point of being that unhealthy, but so we can improve our own habits as well. This is just the largest company spraying the most yearly, year after year after year, and that's why we're penetrating them and educating them. Well, homeowners do too, and if you added up all the homeowners, that's of course more than this one company, but this one company does the most. So that's why, can you imagine if they said, hey Laura, we've decided we're stepping down, we're just not going to use herbicides anymore. They would become leaders. That's what we tell them all the time. Then homeowners would see that, hey, geez, if the power line company isn't using them, then maybe we shouldn't either. You know, there must be a bigger reason. And it would really educate people, and then we would be going in the right direction to protect our drinking water, all our natural resources here. Do you know the labels? These 5 herbicides have a environmental hazard on every single label of every fertilizer bag. And on this says environmental hazards, kills fish on contact. And they say, Laura, don't worry, we're not near the ocean. It kills me. I'm like, you don't understand the hydrology of Cape Cod. You don't know what the lenses mean. You don't know the flow of the lenses, the direction of the lenses, and where the power lines are connected to where fish live. You know, so it's fresh water as well as salt water, not just salt water, and that's immediately what they say. It kills oysters on contact, one of them. I think that's a mazapar. Oysters. Do you know how many people are reliant on oysters? Like, this is the way we make money. This is the way we survive here on Cape Cod. And that could potentially be harming our oysters. I mean, this is completely unfair, clear across the board, not just drinkable water, but other natural resources we have here. And if we have to sit here and prove it's harming our oysters, and it's prove it's hurting us, and it's prove that it's contaminated our drinking water, guess what? It's too late. It's too late. That's it. It just devalued our land, and you know what? Visitors won't come, and you know what else? They will never be held accountable. Eversource will never be held accountable because the state allows this. And that is what we're trying to fight right now. That is what we're trying to, I don't want to say fight, but we're trying to educate them that this is what they're allowing. They're allowing the contamination. It's slow and steady contamination. It's not an overnight, like the power plant would be an overnight. Nothing living on Cape Cod for the next decade, you know? But this is a slow and steady harm going on. 10,000 gallons. I don't even know what that equals. I think in the big water tent, you know, huge, that's got to be 10,000 gallons. Like, crazy. It just blows my mind. I got like a couple of gallon buckets and I said, okay, that's 5. What's 10,000 equal? I had no idea. I just still can't visualize. You know, they're like, don't worry, it's all watered down. And I'm like, yeah, that's the other word to say. These are water soluble. That means they travel in water. Ugh. It's not like an oil that just stays on top. Big water soluble. So I could go on with the chemistry side of things. Do your own research. It's not hard. It's easy to help. And if we could get 10,000 people, I don't know, there's no magic number. They never said, Laura, we need 1,000 people writing or 10,000 people writing, and then we change the regulation. It is a free-for-all. They're writing their own regs. They're doing whatever the hell they want, you know. And so I'm writing the governor. Guess who wrote the governor 2 days ago? And they called me back. They did. I couldn't believe it. I was like, hello? He's like, I represent Governor Baker's office, and I see you've got something going on down here on Cape Cod. I'm like, thank you. You got a minute? So if we could all do that right now, there would be a huge penetration. He's the only one that can literally, I call it push button, make one phone call, and this is all over. He's the only department, the only person. And on my way here, I called the Senator's office, Senator Julian Sear. I want to give you a shout out. Thank you for always being there. He's written bills, although they didn't pass this time around. My question was, MDAR will not accept letters that don't have a fact, right? That are not fact-based. Is that legal? I mean, come on. Is this legal? And so, of course, they're like, well, we don't know, Laura. This has never happened in history. You're asking questions. This never occurred before. So that's where we're at. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what to do with us. And everybody's doing the best they can. Yada, yada, yada. Guess what? That's not good enough. You're still spraying herbicides in September. 10,000 gallons worth in the next 5 years. Bullshit. You figure it out. And you tell me what you know. And you allow people to write letters no matter how strong they want to be. You gotta accept it. A mother, scientist, and everybody in between, and not discriminate. That's bullshit. You cannot. You're asking for public feedback, and we're giving you public feedback, and you're saying, it's not a fact. You know, it just blows my mind that they can get away with this. So be a part of it regardless of who you are, because you do count. You do matter. You do drink the water. You love Cape Cod. You love it here. We have to stand up. Cape Cod needs us now. Right?
Yeah. So just, do you have, like, I know people can write the letters, and I have just for people watching, I have a form letter set up.
Cool.
That I basically copied from your website letter. And people can just take that, copy it, add their name, and sign it, and send it in.
Awesome.
So I'll put the link in the reply box on the Twitter thing.
Excellent. And that's.
But do you guys have any fundraising that they could help out with?
Oh, bless you for saying that. The best way, please help us keep going this. Thank you. Is to donate online. That's POCA, P-O-C-C-A, Cape Cod, .org. There's a PayPal set up that goes directly to a bank. So when we have to pay for a lawyer, when we have to, get to Boston to speak at the Massachusetts Pesticide Advisory Board, we went 4 times last year. Guess what? They meet 4 times a year. That was huge. They meet 2 times in 3 months, and we were on the agenda. Speaking an hour every single, it was great. So I had a team of people getting together, writing alternatives. We did an alternatives list. There was 6 alternatives. We did argument lists, 12 alternatives, and we brought it and we gave these organizations. MDAR was in the room. This is the Massachusetts Pesticide Advisory Board. We educated them. We showed them maps where the depth to our drinkable water is. We told them how fast the sand permeates and yada, yada, yada. It did nothing, and so we want to continue to work. We would love and really appreciate your donations. POCA-CapeCod.org. Click on PayPal. Again, it goes straight to a bank. So we only withdraw when needed. A lot of time it's paperwork too. Today I was handing out a packet of 5 different sheets, colors, showing people the maps, showing people where their drinkable water is. It's also on the website. You can click and see where your drinkable water is. Sometimes you can put in your zip code, your area code, and then it'll say 7 feet to drinkable water. You're like, oh my God, I had no idea. So we try to make educating fun. We do all sorts of events. We are doing every single conservation day. So this is Dennis Conservation Day, Brewster Conservation Day, but that's kind of talking to the horse's mouth, right? So then we're doing farmers market. We're going to do 6 Brewster farmers markets. So those are huge, long days. You have to help me. Set up tables worth of information, having non-toxic remedies for everything. Soap, shampoos, laundry detergents, lawn care. So anything inside your house gets outside. And guess what? The Title V septic systems do not filter. It goes straight to our drinking water. What kind of laundry detergent do you use? Makes you question, I want this. This is good. Yeah. And then another table is all outside. You can grow lawns without chemicals. I'll prove it. It's cost effective, it's cheaper, you'll have worms, they poop, and then they end up feeding your lands, whether it's a lawn or a garden, forever. You just have to get the worms back, get them working. That's really natural. It's easy. You feed your worms, not the plants. Everybody's feeding the plants all the time with man-made synthetic chemicals or fertilizers or whatever. It's still a synthetic that doesn't break down. It's not water-soluble. I could go on. It's just maddening. And so this information is on pokacapeCod.org. And you can find a way to get to me through there if you have specific questions, but your donations would be so helpful. We have so much work to do this year. As you can see, we're in the middle of this process. And we do have a lawyer, and we're reaching out if anybody else is also involved to, help. That would be great. So join the mission, contact us. We're penetrating town halls right now, going to boards of health and select boards and water boards. So there's so many. But we're getting on the agenda, and then we have to wait 2 weeks, and then you speak in front of TV. It's it's so much work. We're constantly at it, and we're glad to be a part of this process. We're glad to be here. We're glad to bring the knowledge, but we need your help. We are a team, but we can't do it alone. We've set things up. We understand the process now. Do you know that we can't even write our own written bylaws or ordinances against Roundup because of the preemption law for the state of Massachusetts? Isn't that crazy? Now Maine, the state of Maine, every town has their own ordinance or bylaw. They've written, this town cannot purchase, Roundup if you're a homeowner. This town cannot sell Roundup. Every town is writing whatever they want to write, but we can't because we have a preemption law. So that's why we can't nip this in the bud. But we have to do this town per town per town. Now you have 21 towns behind you. That's all of Cape Cod, 15 towns. And then Martha's Vineyard, 6 towns. 21 towns say they do not want this Eversource to spray herbicides on their land. And guess what? The state continues to carte blanche it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. So it's really a state versus town situation. And the towns don't know what to do. They don't know that they have the strength. They've never been asked to do this before. So that's what the POCA team is doing. We're the educators. We're the in-between saying, oh, no, you can. And the Massachusetts Pesticide Advisory Board didn't know that they could actually, they're the ones that can call a moratorium, a 1 year off. They didn't know. I told them. I said, it's right there in your own regulations that you're the only department that can give a moratorium. They're like, no, we can't. And they asked their lawyers. They're like, yeah, you are. So everybody's learning on all these levels because it's never happened. So that's where I look at it, is that we keep thinking of things and we keep trying. And so if anybody, like you said, has any smart out of the box ideas, we're so open to this right now. Thank you for being involved.
Hello, good morning, how you doing? Waking up.
This is Titus Frost, spitting truth, getting banned from the Matrix.
Feeling fresh like a Ziploc new man. OJ.
I do not believe that glyphosate in Argentina is causing increases in cancer. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you.
You want to drink some? We have some here.
I'd be happy to, actually.
With a champagne tuna, mimosa Holy Ghost running through ya. Hell yeah, it's a new hallelujah. Popping like the top off a bottle and I ain't stopping yet. Baby, it's a brand new day. Ain't no clouds hanging over me. Something doesn't feel the same. The rest of my life gonna start today. Good morning. Good morning. Start today. Crawling up the ocean, this is evolution. Can I grow into another animal, the next level? I'm sprouting wings and I just want to sing.
Not really, but
not really.
I know it wouldn't hurt me.
If you say so, I have some glyphosate.
No, I'm not stupid.
Okay, so you.
No, but I know
so
that
it's dangerous.
No, people try to commit suicide with it and fail fairly regularly.
Tell the truth.
It's not dangerous to humans. No, it's not.
So you're ready to drink one glass of glyphosate?
No, I'm not an idiot. Interview me about golden rice. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, then it's finished. Then the interview is finished.
That's a good way to solve things.
Yeah. You're a complete jerk.